Okay, so it's time once again for Litvak Leadership Live, and our guest today is Alaine Burrese, and I am sure he'll be joining us shortly. I invited him, we spoke earlier, it's all good. Let's see, there we go, so we're inviting him in now. And let's see, we've got a few people here. Good afternoon, Randy. What's going on, my man? George Henderson, good to see you too. So we should have Alaine joining us momentarily. Got all kinds of people popping on today. I knew that Alaine was going to bring the crowd. He's got some interesting perspectives. Let's see, Alaine will be here momentarily. Hey, Ray, how are you today? Let's see if we've got Alaine there yet. Looking. No, not yet, but soon, I'm sure. Valerie Morris is in the house. Valerie Morris is one of the safety leaders in the country. If you don't know Valerie Morris, you need to look for her on LinkedIn and on Facebook. I worked with Valerie for a number of years, and she is tremendous when it comes to safety and even HR. So check her out, Valerie Morris on LinkedIn. And I'm looking here for Alaine. Should be here momentarily. We have a little time zone difference. You say you're not seeing me on the phone, Alaine. I'm not sure. So can you not see me, period, or you can't find me on Facebook? Do you have your phone sideways? You know I like the whole sideways thing. So let's see. Since you sent me a messenger message, Alaine. Yeah, I hit the invite for you. I think I'm going to have to kick up my technology game very soon because using the whole Facebook streaming is definitely creating some issues. But I'm sure Alaine will be here. Now Alaine has found me, so he should. Let me see here. He doesn't see the invite. Okay, well, Alaine, you need to go to my Facebook page and just make like you're watching. It should be there, one would think. Gonna look again, see if somehow it got turned off. Nope, it shows the invite. Got a big crowd in anticipation of Alaine. Okay, so Alaine is watching. Alaine is instant messaging me. And gosh, this is an interesting situation here. So let's see, maybe there's another way that I can invite you in. Come on now, Alaine, I know you're here. I hit invite. Let me hit it, hitting it multiple times. Do you have your phone? And I know you have your phone sideways. So, Alaine, did you see what Bruce Himmelblau had to say? First, hold the phone vertically, then click the green icon at the bottom. Maybe that will help. Yeah, we're going to be switching to a different platform probably next week. Since this seems... wait, I think Alaine is here. Eric Bam wants to be in the broadcast. Trying to help me out here. So, Alaine, we're going to give you one more second. Otherwise, we may do Eric Bam, which I'm sure Eric has a lot to say. But come on now, Alaine. I know you're here. Is it working for you? Oh, wait. I see two guests now. So, Alaine, let's see. Because I don't think either of the two people who've requested to be part of the broadcast are active shooter certified trainers. Wait, another. Here we go. And y'all are cracking me up. Okay, we're going to give it one more moment. I am watching you, but don't have any invite. Y'all are cracking me up. Okay, wait, I'm going to clear the requests. I'm going to hit add viewers to my broadcast. See, and I don't see you as a... Oh, Bear, there we go, Alan. Boom. Okay, you should be here. I just invited you again. Did you get the invite? I hit add. Yeah, it is harsh, Kellen. It is harsh. Technology has always been my friend. But we're only 3 minutes in. Seems like 3 hours, doesn't it, though? This is the first challenge that I have had like this with technology. Alan, did you get the invite in? All right, you see, and I can't even like pause and not talk. Yes, and Alan is, Alan's one of those guys that can hurt you with a stare. Even though he's super nice. I don't know what the invite looks like, but I don't have anything. Yes, I know. Don't make Alan angry. And we're rolling, and add viewers to the broadcast. Man, I've never had this issue before. So, Alan, we're going to try this one more way. Why don't you navigate away and then navigate back in? Let's try that. Give that a try. So far this week, we've talked about marketing. We've talked about cards that wow. We've talked about pizza, pizza liners, and pizza marketing. And we're looking here. And I think what we're going to have to do, we're going to give it another minute because I really want to talk about this today. Yes, Alan is on his phone. Here we go. Alan, I see you, so I'm hitting add. Add. Okay, it's added. It says adding. Adding. Should be saying connecting momentarily. Never had it gone this difficult to get it happening on the stream. Connecting. Oh my word.
I don't know what was up, but I didn't get anything until just now. And then it popped up and said you were inviting me. But before that,
Shocking.
Yeah, so I don't know.
So, ladies and gentlemen, my friend and colleague, Alaine Burrese, thank you for joining us and pulling me off camera by myself, trying to figure out what to say. If you brought nothing else, you brought less than a singular conversation.
Well, and that's good. And I think this weekend, invest in Streamyards.
Yes.
Or one of the other platforms that makes that so much easier. Because, you kept saying, do you see the invite? And I'm like, nothing. And then finally, it popped up. And Sean is inviting you. It's like, oh, great. Let's go.
Yeah. I think it's time for Streamyards. Because I can even hear me echoing a little bit on your phone. It's very odd. But, okay, let's start serious, and then we'll lighten up. Because I've watched some streams today with different people. And although we know it's September 11th, no one's really talking about it a lot. So what I want to ask you is, where were you when you heard the news on September 11th?
I was in my bathroom shaving, and the TV was on in the living room, and I was shaving to get ready for work, and I sort of heard something, and I yelled to my wife. I was like, "Hey, turn the TV up, please!" And what's going on? And I finished up and went to the living room and went like, "Wow, like the whole world was doing." And I raced to work. At the time, I was a brand new director for the Center for Leadership Development at the University of Montana. I took that position instead of a legal position when I finished law school in 2001. So I rushed over to the university, and we started setting up TVs and different resources to help students deal with such a traumatic thing going on.
Yeah, it was, I was actually sitting in a car, my car, waiting to go in to do a janitorial presentation. And I didn't have the radio on. I walked in, told the receptionist I was there and who I was there to see, and she looks at me and said, "You should go in your car and turn on the radio."
Yeah. Yeah, and I had the radio on while I was getting to the office, at the university, and that's when one of the towers fell. Because I remember hearing that on the radio as I was driving. I had seen, the footage of the plane hitting the tower. Once I got out of the bathroom and went to the TV, and then one of the towers actually fell when I was driving. It's one of those things that, again, we all remember because it was so traumatic and so terrible and devastating. 2 years ago, I got to go to Ground Zero and see the museum that they have built, and I went up in the new building, the tower, and what a sombering experience. Even 17 years later, when I was visiting, just to seeing the pictures and the videos and everything, it still hits you hard. Of so much death and destruction that happened that morning.
Yeah, it was just a terrible, terrible day. That my children were little, and they just have memories of things not being good, but not real understanding of it. So, all right,
my daughter wasn't born yet, so she didn't even so she has learned about it since. But yeah, it's all of us that were living and that old enough to understand what was going on. It's one of those things that will be etched in our brains and our hearts for forever.
Absolutely. So did September 11th have any kind of, I know it had an effect on you, but when we look at your LinkedIn profile, I'm going to brag on you here for a second. Author of 8 books, 8 DVD series, speaker, instructor, former U.S. Army infantryman, lawyer, certified active shooter response instructor. How do you balance all that? And did you do any kind of pivot after 9/11 with that kind of background?
I didn't, and part of it is age and responsibilities. If I would have been, say, if that would have happened 10 years earlier, and when I would have just been out of the Army a short time, still single, probably would have been right back in. But being older, having been, being married, being out of the military for so long, it's, age gets you, and that's a younger man's, occupation, doing some of that. And so while I was angry, I sort of wanted to be over there with those guys doing things, I realized that, my time was sort of past to go back in and do that kind of stuff, and had to have faith in the people that were in the positions at the time to do what needed to be done, and try to have faith in our leaders to do what the right thing, which I don't think anybody, something that terrible, really knows. It takes a lot of figuring stuff out. Mistakes are made, good things are done, bad things are done. That's just how things go when the world is in a mess like that.
Yeah. So one thing that I didn't, in your long list of things that you are done. You're also a martial arts instructor. How did you get into martial arts?
You know, I was fascinated with martial arts as a kid. So in the 70s, reading Bruce Tegner and Fred Neff books and trying to practice on my own. Finally got a chance in the 80s in high school to join a judo club. So judo was my first formal training under an instructor and learning. And then I've had a variety of different styles and instructors as I moved around. In the 90s, I really settled on Hapkido as the style I really wanted to focus on. And so since 96, I've been pretty dedicated to Hapkido. Moved to Korea. I lived in Korea, trained 11 classes a week, 2 a day, Monday through Friday, and 1 on Saturday mornings. And I've been under that same instructor, Lee Jung-gyu, since then. You know, I live in America, but I go back and forth to Korea to train and to test. But I started teaching in America, one, to keep my skills. And I was told by different people, teach, you'll get better. Because it's one thing to be able to do something. It's another to be able to teach and explain to someone else how to do it. It makes you become better at the concepts and being able to teach. So I've been teaching since law school in the late 90s.
Very, very cool. So also on your LinkedIn, it says you're fluent in Korean. When you learned Korean, was it just through immersion by moving to Korea, or did you study it also?
And I'm going to correct you because LinkedIn doesn't say I'm fluent. I understand. I mean, I have a basic understanding of Korean and Japanese. You know, I studied Japanese in college and I lived a year in Japan as well. I'm not fluent in either of them. I understand a lot more than I can speak, which is my own fault because I probably should speak and study more. But I do understand more, and that's just, it's from formal study and from living in the country and then just, you know, trying to practice and get better.
So one of my former colleagues, Valerie Morris, who is on here today, has run active shooter drills and demonstrations. She's a leader in the safety community. Why don't you tell us how you became a certified active shooter response instructor and, you know, what got your interest in that? Sure.
I've been teaching self-defense, safety, and martial arts for years. And it was about the time, 2012, when the Aurora shooting happened. You know, the guy that opened up at the movie theater playing the Batman movie.
Yep.
And people were asking me at the time, what can we do? And I didn't have that much of an answer other than the run, hide, fight that the government put out. And I actually stood out in front of a Batman movie poster at the theater and made a commitment to people that I was going to do more in this area and help people in this area. And that's when I started studying whatever book I could find on the topic, articles, courses. I became certified with Safariland, which is a big organization that mainly deals with law enforcement. And I was working part-time for the University of Montana Police Department with their special event team, doing security for events, whether that was a football game with 27,000 people or a smaller venue thing that they only needed one person, and it was me, like to walk Tim Tebow into the arena where he was giving a presentation. So, I mean, it varied the gambit of what I was doing at the university. But because of my background, some of the university police officers were on the Missoula team that was formed. Mostly police officers, but a few that were not police officers that were certified by Safariland. And they were teaching the school systems, the hospitals, different places, university in town, these programs. They asked me to come in, check out the program. I went through it. Then they asked me if I could help out and be a safety officer. After doing that, a couple classes, they're like, will you teach this stuff? Could you help teach this part of the class? Sure, I can do that. I started doing some teaching, and then they're like, we need to get you certified through Safariland so you're official. So they sent me to the certification class. So I was officially certified to teach the Safariland program.
Wow.
And I taught on that team. We taught thousands of people over a number of years. But then I started getting requests out of town, out of state. And I said, well, I can come, but I can't bring that whole team of cops with me. And I can't do some of the things that we do. And they're like, well, we don't want that part anyway. We want, yeah, what you said you could do is what we want. So I started traveling, doing my own programs. And then I wrote the book, Survive a Shooting. It's the book I wanted when I first got introduced to the topic and wanted to shift gears. And it's one of the most authoritative textbooks on the topic out there.
So what you're saying is you went looking for information. You couldn't find the information you were looking for. Ultimately, you became an expert, and then you produced the information for others.
Correct, yes. And I modified the training because reports started happening around the country. There was a big one recently where they're saying that certain active shooter drills, they do more harm than good. And some of the kind of training, including the training that we were doing with the Safariland course, probably not the best because it was creating some injuries. And so I started looking at how can we get information and empower people and prevent the injuries, prevent workman's comp claims, prevent the trauma that some of these drills are having on people. That, you know, I read about it and I was like, we got to change stuff because not everybody's like me. I don't expect everybody to be military martial art minded, and you can't teach teachers like you teach cops and soldiers. They became teachers because they didn't want to be cops and soldiers. You can't teach nurses like they're a cop or a soldier. They became nurses for a reason. So I started changing how I teach to better help that civilian population to be empowered, not scared, and also minimize any kind of workplace injuries, which have resulted in some very big lawsuits. Not here in Missoula, thankfully, but I've read about them in other places where certain trainers weren't doing things them. And big lawsuits, injuries, workman comp claims. And that's why I've actually had insurance companies say they like what I'm doing.
So since we've been, experiencing civil unrest, in the country, in addition to the pandemic, I know in my past, active shooter drills was something that was touched on lightly in the real estate community and touched on in a large way in the education community. Have you seen an uptick with where we are today in people looking for training on this?
We've actually, it's leveled out a little because of COVID has everybody right now. Schools are scrambling. I taught a school a couple weeks ago, but some of the schools that I had planned on teaching this month, August, September, they have postponed their trainings for later because they're so busy dealing with the COVID-19 issues and the regulations and things that they have to put in place for safety for that. So I've actually had quite a few postponed trainings at the moment. Although I have, in hospitals, sort of the same, they were sort of postponing, but I have had 2 hospitals in the last week say that they're looking at it again and they do want to get something going on. Not only the training, but the Reflex Protect product that, I offer now, because I combine my training with this new startup company, Reflex Protect, so we could give people the best of both worlds and empower them not only with education, but with a means to defend themselves, that anybody, even a small person, can stop a big, larger person. Rather than me trying to teach them how to fight, I can teach them how to spray a can, and that can will put the larger person down. Whether it's an active killer or just a workplace violence situation, which plagues hospitals. Nurses get beat up all the time. And so we're really trying to help nurses not get beat up anymore with education, training, and the defensive spray.
It's pretty amazing everything you've got your hands in whether it be, and we haven't even talked about your law background, but with the active reflex protect, the defensive training, the training manual on active shooter, and you're a fiction novelist?
I have written one novel, and I hope to write more. I would like to write a couple more, at least about those two characters, Ben Baker and Frank Sinich, that are in the novel Lost Conscience. I also have another novel that's a pretty dark novel that has been floating in my mind. And whenever I hear a certain song on the radio, it reminds me of that novel, and that I need to get that one out one of these days too.
Okay. I remember when you and I had our first conversation, I think I started it with, gosh, Alan, you're who I want to be when I grow up. You just have it all together. And further yet, you've got multiple websites and YouTube channels. There's Your Warrior's Edge, Survive and Defend, both have YouTube channels, and then there's Aki Productions.
Ike Productions.
Aki Productions. So what's the difference? You know, who is each of those individual websites and YouTube channels geared towards?
Sure. Ike Productions was a production company I started with a friend years ago, and we produced a number of videos, both for me and a few other authors. Ended up, he wanted to get out of that business, and so my wife and I bought him out. And so, you know, I and my wife own Ike Productions. We haven't been putting any new titles out, but we're starting to put old titles onto digital platforms. So for those as educational DVDs. Your Warrior's Edge, that is my website where I focus on Hapkido and martial art related things. And a lot of not just technique, but philosophical and philosophy of martial arts. Survive and Defend, that's more safety, self-defense. It's for the person who doesn't want to learn a martial art, but wants to be safe. And there's stuff on there about keeping your kids safe, you know, safe habits, safe travel. You know, how do you pick a safer hotel room? What do you look for? It's all about staying safe and defending yourself if you have to. And there's tons of free stuff, and there's a membership site with close to 900 pages of different information, videos, articles, different things, all on aspects of safety. Then Survive a Shooting, that website is specifically for the book and the active shooter courses. Then there's Alaine Burrese, there's a YouTube channel and a Facebook page. That's where I do business stuff, motivational, inspirational, things like that. And then there's Reflex Protect, which is its own company, which I am the director of training for that company. And that promotes the Reflex Protect defensive spray and the Reflex Protect trainings that we do under that company.
So you have 4 of your own personal websites plus your employer's website.
Yes, and a couple others. I got the Tough Guy Wisdom because I wrote the Tough Guy Wisdom books. I got the Black Belt Communicator because I'm working on a Black Belt Communicator online course program in the future. So I already have that website and Facebook page. So, you know, I don't actively use those that much. They're more placeholders with a little bit there now until I'm ready to use them.
Okay. So with all this activity, and I know you have a new dog, a puppy, Rocky. You travel. You, like me, enjoy hamburgers. What do you do to relax?
I love to read. I like hiking. You know, when my wife and I get out in the woods and hike, that's always relaxing and a stress release. Right now, we're not getting out in the woods and hiking because of the puppy. Wait until he gets a little older, then he can go with us, which will be great. But I do love reading, and a lot of times I'll take a weekend morning, and instead of doing my 20 or 30 minutes minimum, you know, I'll read for a couple hours. And I have several, I'll be reading multiple books. I'll read a chapter out of this book, then read a chapter out of this book, then read a chapter out of this book. And all of the books are on different topics. One of them being a novel. I always have a novel going for fun, but then I always have a martial art book, a sales book, a business book, a motivational book, a biography, those kind of things going all at once as well.
I once again, I want to be you when I grow up. You have hair. You know, on top of everything else, you still have a full head of hair.
I do, and I'm one of those lucky folks that, you know, it's turning gray, but it's not falling out. So.
Man, let me tell you, I would take gray hair. It would be okay. So, Alaine, this has been tremendous. I'm going to have you back on sooner rather than later. So I'll be on Streamyard and we won't have the audio issues. And B, we've really only hit the fingernail of who is Alaine Burrese. So take the next couple minutes and impart some wisdom to those watching. What do you want people to leave with when they think of you?
You know, what I really want them to leave with, since, you know, you focus on leadership, remember that leading people is not the same as managing people. Leading people, what I really think, is inspiring people to a greater vision to join you. I think, you know, a couple examples. Joe Anderson, the CEO of Reflex Protect, is a good leader because he got together a team, myself included, of people that were inspired and motivated to help keep people safe. I mean, I was doing it already, and he saw that and said, Alaine, you're the perfect kind of guy for my team. Let's join together. And I agreed. I think my favorite president, Ronald Reagan, whether you like his politics or not, at the time that he became president and what the country was going through, he had the leadership to make people feel good about themselves again, bring the country together. And that's the kind of leadership that we need today. We need leaders that inspire people to higher ideals and are motivated to do better for the good of whatever organization it is, or if it's the country, for the good of the country. And so leadership is more than managing. And we need some strong leadership today in many different areas.
And there you have it, people. Alaine has pretty much summed up some of the thoughts that I've had, but frankly, he's got even more on top of that. Alaine, thank you so much for being here today, talking about your background, your vision, and how you help folks. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me on, Sean. I really appreciate it too.
All right. Everyone have a great weekend and watch the replay of this. It'll be on my Facebook. Next week, I'll be on a different platform. You'll be able to access it from Facebook. More information on that to come. Thank you so much.